What a performance.
Third and
Watch him work this one.
Mayfield in trouble, breaks free
Yes,
from
sir.
one, but he can't get away from the second. He
was
did
a
it
monster.
again.
This is defensive player of the year type stuff.
High five for Aiden Hutchinson. His 5th sack of the day.
The Lions offense sputters for the second week in a row, leading to a 20-16 loss to the undermanned Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And although the Lions have a lot of offensive questions to answer, there were some positives to pull out of week 2. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Let's go through the Detroit Lions report cards and hand out some grades. We'll look at the offensive and defensive position groups, coaching and special teams, and we'll go through this loss to the Tampa Bay Bucs. Let's go. Before we get into it, make sure to comment down below. What did you think of this week 2 matchup with the Bucs? The Lions, a very tough loss here in week 2. Let me know what you thought about the offense. How do they recover? How do they go into Arizona now in week 3 and get this back on track? If you like the vibe here at Johnny Gas Sports, make sure to hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. I'd love it if you consider subscribing. Hitting the notify bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. There is a membership option available where we do the play-by-play highlight reactions and a ton of fun content there, but there's a ton of free stuff for you here all the time. I appreciate your guys' time, all the effort, and all the interaction. Let's dive into week 2. Let's start with the bad. Let's start with the offense and the quarterback, Jared Goff. And he had a very tough day, the second week in a row where he has just looked shaky, unsteady, off his rocker, to be honest with you. He was 34 of 55 for 307 yards, had the 2 interceptions. He just didn't look comfortable to me, and this is on a day where he was not sacked. It's very interesting. The offense runs through Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. Obviously, the offensive line has to be there. And like we said, they didn't allow a sack. I thought they were pretty good when they decided to run the ball. But Jared Goff was just off, and they need to figure out what the issue is. Started the game off with that unfortunate interception. We don't need to argue whether or not that was a penalty. Yes, it should have been called. Defensive contact downfield, illegal contact, whatever you want to say, defensive pass interference. The bottom line is Goff looked surprised. He looked like because he didn't get the call there, everything just seemed off from that moment, and now this is the second week in a row where they've struggled, and he specifically has struggled today mightily. I gave him a D+ for his performance against the Buccaneers. I just didn't think he was able to compose himself at any point. Their biggest downfall on offense is their red zone performance. They were able to move the ball. They had 463 yards of offense compared to the Tampa Bay's 216, and they were 1 for 7 in the red zone. You cannot win football games playing that way, turning the ball over and not converting in the red zone, relying on field goals to win isn't going to get it done. So Jared Goff, unfortunately, was one of my lower grades here this week. The running backs, I thought they were fine. I think the problem here was that the Lions just didn't commit anything to the running game, and part of that is Goff's success against Jared Bull's defense. I think the Lions' success against Tampa Bay last season, the numbers, stats would indicate that they had success through air yards, and I think that's the way they tried to attack it here. I would have told you the same thing. That was my prediction, that with the depleted secondary of the Tampa Bay Bucs, the way to beat this team would have been through the air. That didn't work today. But the running backs I thought were fine. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs flashed. He made plays for the team when they had to have it there, especially towards the end of the game. He made the 4th down play. He was huge in the screen game. I thought Monty was good when they did decide to hand him the ball. Tough yards. But I just think they didn't commit to the run whatsoever in this game. Overall, I gave the running backs the grade of B here for week 2. Next up, the offensive line. And again, I thought they were okay. No sacks allowed. When they decided to run the ball, it seemed to be there. Yes, Jared Goff was pressured here and there, but I thought they were okay. I thought at times, Graham Glasgow looked like he had gotten beat a few times, but I'll have to go back and watch the tape to really solidify that. We know that Penei Sewell's playing through an injury, so there are some things up front, but I thought overall they were good. I gave the offensive line a B-. I think they're really more affected by the rhythm of the offense, and if Ben Johnson can't figure out how to consistently put together drives that have a mix of pass and run, then the offensive line is going to look like this week to week. So unfortunately, I think their grade suffers because of that. Wide receivers, and this was a tough one to grade because I've been begging for Amon-Ra to get back into the rotation, and I think the Lions did do everything to try and force him the ball. He ended up with 11 receptions for 119 yards, but I don't know if they were truly impactful on the game. I think they may have even forced it to him too much at times. And we'll talk about that, how that truly affected the game here in just a moment. J-Mo also was okay. 5 receptions, 79 yards, had the big play at the beginning of the game, but goes through lulls here. And if they're really only going to rely on 2 wide receivers, moving forward, they need both those guys to come up in these games. Again, I think they force the ball at times. It's almost like rather than allowing to take what comes to the offense, they're trying to force to J-Mo, force to Amon-Ra. We'll talk about some other position groups here in a moment. Tim Patrick was called up from the practice squad, and he did have a couple receptions, which is good to see. But is he the ultimate playmaker? Does he really make a difference to make that position group better overall? So for the wide receivers, I gave them a C+. And now to the tight ends, and this might be one of the more frustrating position groups for me to grade because ultimately the question is, where is Sam Laporta? 2 receptions for 13 yards in this ballgame against the Buccaneers is not good enough. And I know, again, I begged for more Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they really got him back and going, maybe at the cost of a small injury. It sounds like it's nothing serious, but still you're going to have to monitor that considering the thin wide receiver room you have. But going back to the tight ends, that's not enough for Sam Laporta. The offense needs to adjust and get back to, like I said, taking what comes to them. Yes, defenses might be scheming a little bit more for Sam Laporta considering the year he had, but you have offensive weapons all over the field, and to me, it needs to get better. I don't believe they're mixing the tight ends into the running game as much as they had in the past, and part of that is they're not committing to the running game, and I think they should have done that more. It's easy to say that now in hindsight because, again, my game plan, my game previews would have indicated that to beat the Bucs here in week 2, it would have been through the air. It wasn't working, but there wasn't enough adjustments. Going back to the tight end groups, again, we need more Sam Laporta. This offense, the safety net needs to run through him, even Brock Wright at times, and he was absent today. There was no Brock Wright whatsoever. So for the tight end group, I gave them a D for for the week 2 performance. Overall, I'm giving the offense a C- for their week 2 performance against the Bucs, and I think that is generous considering the grades I gave out for each position group. Again, I think this goes back to the scheme. I really thought that this game was for the taking as far as yardage and points. And yardage-wise, the Lions were there. But when you get to the red zone and you stall, 1 out of 7 in those moments, that's just not good enough for an offense that was, I think, 3rd in the league in red zone percentage last year. You cannot drop off like that. You cannot rely on field goals to win you games at home early on in the season against what could be a playoff contender and what could be a seeding thing down the road. So to me, the offense was not good today, and they have to figure this out moving forward. Switching gears now to something much more positive, I think, was the defense. And I think you have to focus on the performance of Aiden Hutchinson. We'll start with the defensive line. Hutch ended up finishing with 4.5 sacks. They did, I don't want to say discredit him, but they gave Levi Onwuzurike half a sack in one of those there. So he finished with 4.5. He still would have been 1.5 sacks shy of the Lions' all-time record there. But either way, Aiden Hutchinson was a monster here in this game. He's one of the reasons why you were within 4 points, ultimately. Some of these sacks came at really high-pressure times. It wasn't like these were garbage numbers. This was big time for Aiden Hutchinson. It's a real shame to me that the Lions could not find a way to pull out this game or have a better offensive performance so they can win, to put some shine on this performance. This is defensive player of the year building type stuff. And, it won't get lost necessarily, but at least for this week, it's just tough to see that go by the wayside because the Lions' performance offensively was just so poor. But Aiden Hutchinson was fantastic. I thought Levi Onwuzurike, Aleem McNeil was good. DJ Reader came back, but on a very limited basis. He really did not have an impact on this game. But the Lions' run defense was there again. Bucs really could not get anything going on the ground whatsoever and had to rely on Baker Mayfield, their wide receivers, and just kind of holding in there to win this game. So their D-line, I thought, to me, gets an A for this performance, obviously on the basis of Hutch and what he did with those 4.5 sacks. Moving back to the linebackers, and I don't think the group was as good as they were week 1, but I think part of that was the fact that Alex Anzalone had to go out with a concussion midway through the game. That then forced Malcolm Rodriguez to take more snaps. Derek Barnes becomes more proficient there. But I thought they were good. Even after losing Alex Anzalone, I don't think outside of that one missed tackle by Malcolm Rodriguez, that was really one bright, shining moment. But other than that, he was good. He was run stuffing. And I thought Barnes filled in well. He even got some time in that Sam linebacker role, kind of that edge spot with Davenport being out. And I didn't really see James Houston at all. I don't think they're willing to commit to him whatsoever. I think you'll see more and more of Derek Barnes. I thought he showed himself well. He made some plays, got the pass knocked down to force the 3 and out there at the end of the game. So I thought he was good. So the linebacking crew, I gave a B for this performance here in week 2 against the Bucs. And the secondary, let's start with Terry and Arnold. I think it was a tough start And overall, it's been an up and down 2 weeks for him. I think he's going to have to adjust the way the NFL calls the defensive pass interference penalties. A little bit handsy. He even went out of the game temporarily with a hand injury, came back heavily bandaged there, his 3 fingers. And we'll have to kind of check and see if that will affect him down the road. But outside of that, again, he's going to have to adjust. Too many penalties against him. I don't think he's exposed. I think he's held up well. Really, only Chris Godwin was the guy that got to them today offensively from the Bucs. He was 7 receptions, 117 yards, and did have the score. And I think that was more of a zone scheme issue on that particular play. So I thought the secondary was okay. There's still a lot of room for improvement. Brian Branch gets the interception. Great athletic play there, kind of went up and snagged the ball. But again, I think that was more of a Bucs wide receiver route issue. You had 2 wide receivers sort of coming together for the Bucs. Brian Branch, to his credit, still goes up and makes the play. And you hopefully will get more of that here this season. So overall, the secondary was okay. I gave them a C+. Overall, for the defense, I'm going to give them a B+. I thought they were very good today, obviously on the back of Hutch's performance. But even outside of that, again, the run defense was very stout. They got the stops at the end of the game necessary to get the offense the ball back. And really, the truth is the defense just didn't get the support that they needed today. 20 points is a fantastic number. I think Hutch is showing that he's next level. So there's a lot of good things to take out of it defensively. So let's not look past that in this week 2 performance. Moving over to the special teams, let's start with the kicker, Jake Bates. He went 3 for 3 today, had a long of 35. His kickoffs have not been a problem. Even from the preseason and some of the things we had talked about in his inconsistencies, he's been fine so far. Of course, both these games are indoors at Ford Field, so there's not a ton of element issues involved. We'll have to see as he goes on the road, but he's been good. So I gave him a grade of A for the performance here in week 2. And then the punter, Jack Fox, I think has just been fantastic. And I think what he becomes victim of today is the fact that the Lions made him punt on short field. So he only averaged, 30, 40 yards on kicks, but both of his punts were inside the 20. And obviously the biggest play was the fake punt there early on when, again, the Lions were in a lull offensively and they needed to get something going. Jack Fox on the fake punt makes a perfect pass to Sione Vaki over the middle. Great play executed there by the special teams and gets the first down. The unfortunate thing is the Lions end up having to punt again on that same drive and give the ball back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But specific to Jack Fox, I'm giving him an A+ for this performance. 2 weeks in a row where he's just been fantastic. One note in the return game, and I won't give a grade. I thought they were just okay. I'm not exactly sure why Tom Kennedy's returning kicks. You're telling me there's not a more athletic or speedy option. I liked when Sione Vaki was back there in the preseason. I'm not sure why they went away from that. He may be working in the blocking scheme, but there's got to be ways to shift that around. I didn't love that, so we want to keep our eyes to the ground on that one. The other thing is the coaching gaffe at the end of the first half. We cannot ignore that. That's a huge miss on the Lions' part. There's about 18 seconds left. The Lions are driving. They have no timeouts left. Goff throws an 8-yard pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle. He's unable to get the first down. This was on a second down play. It's now third down. It looked to me like the offense knew they're going to hustle to the line. They're going to down the ball with a few seconds left to be able to stop the clock and kick a field goal. Problem is, it looked like the field goal team was not on the same page. Dan Campbell has come out since the final of the game and has said that there's just a mix-up between the timing of when the field goal team would typically run off to try and get a kickoff versus when they would try to get it down to the ball. Again, we'll have to look into that more and see, but Dan Campbell's taken full ownership of that. It's good to see your head coach do that, but you wonder if there's more involved, and you just can't have that here if you want to play winning football. If you're looking for a number 1 seed in the playoffs, you're looking to get to a Super Bowl and win one, those are the kind of things you cannot have happen. That was a big gaffe to end the first half. So to me, overall, that brings the special teams down. I gave them a grade of C here. Honestly, on the back of that gaffe at the end of the first half. Otherwise, I thought they were very good. So the special teams gets a C here in week 2. And sort of piggybacking off of that, let's talk about the coaching. Overall, week 2 against the Bucs, I gave a grade of D for the coaching staff for the Lions. And there's a few reasons for that. Number 1, obviously, is the offensive struggles. I'm not sure what's going on with the Ben Johnson offense, but again, it looks to me like they are forcing the play rather than allowing it to come to them. To me, they just ignored the run game here in week 2. I understand a little bit why. The success against the Bulls defense and Goff overall, but there just didn't seem to be an adjustment. After the first half, they didn't turn back to their bread and butter or do the things that, the typical Lions teams from 2023 would do. And that's concerning to me. They're going to have to make an adjustment. They're going to have to get this fixed. Again, there was just no commitment to that run game, and that's something they're going to have to, I think, lean on now moving forward until they get this fixed. Sam Laporta, the tight ends, they need to get back into the game, and they need to figure out what to do at this third wide receiver position, especially if you have any kind of injury issue with Amon-Ra St. Brown. If any one of those guys goes out, they are in a very tough spot, and I think ultimately they may need another body here. They have a couple guys still left on the practice squad, and we'll see what happens, throughout the week if there's any changes made, but ultimately there's going to have to be something done to this offense to get the continuity back, to get this thing rolling. So there it is, our Week 2 report card and grades against the Buccaneers in that tough loss, 20-16. What do you think? What do you think of the Lions offense? What can they do to fix this going into Week 3 on the road now against the Arizona Cardinals, who got a big win over the LA Rams? Pretty convincing. Kyler Murray, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, the offense is going to have to score some points there down in Arizona. What do you think about that matchup? I'd love to hear from you. If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Guest Sports, please hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. The subscription button and notify bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. We do have a membership option available. We do all our play-by-play reactions, our highlight reactions. We have a lot of fun content there. We also, of course, have all the fun free content you've come to love here on the channel. Hit the join button. I'll walk you through all the options you have if you'd like to become a part of the family. More than anything else, just make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. That is more important than anything. I want to make sure you guys come back and see me on future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have an excellent day. Go Lions.